Hello everybody! Can you hear me? So, I'm back after a long while with another live coding session, and this time we will continue what we started last time by implementing GamepadAdded and GamepadRemoved events on iOS and macOS, and possibly WebAssembly if we have time for that. So I will just go ahead and get started on this, and I will go back to the current state of things. Right. Just a little update here. Okay, should now work. Hi, Amir. Alright, so I have Xamarin iOS selected as target, so that's good. And let's get started. Here we go. I can see that the chat is not updating in the video for some reason. Not sure why. See if this helps. It didn't. Well, maybe it's not gonna work for this stream. Whatever. So let's go to iOS. Oh, I have my Mac hidden here. I have to get ready because we're gonna be building remotely. Right. The necessary cable. And there we go. All right. I have to check what we did the last time. So gamepad class, and yeah, we have a sample gamepad enumeration test, which is enumerating gamepads that are connected to the device, and I have to check how it's looking now. Come on, connect. Not reacting, I see. Well, let's try it again. Oh, it's connecting now. It's one of the special moments when I'm connecting to MacBook and it's not requiring me to update any Xcode or Mono or Xamarin iOS versions. Okay. Come on. Good. So I'll try to build this first to make sure it actually runs. so my iPhone is connected, and let's... it's kind of freezing today. Right. So what's the status of our implementation? We started with Uno gaming input gamepad. So we have now the Android implementation here, and it's just listing gamepads and checking for GamepadAdded and GamepadRemoved event. And we are going to extend this implementation today for iOS and macOS. The Android implementation was pretty simple actually. It just required us to hook up the input manager and then check for the native specific listener events which were broadcasted, and then create gamepad instances based on those. So it was pretty simple to set up. It just required some infrastructure which will be shared across all the platforms. And just to see, we can, in the meantime, while it's building, we can check if iOS gamepad implementation has something similar. Yeah, let's see, like this. API. Yeah, so Apple has this game controller API, which should be what we need, and it has some interesting APIs, but these are actually for the input events themselves. So I will go maybe to check on Monogame, because Monogame has a nice implementation of gamepads across platforms, so we can maybe use some of those parts in our implementation as well. So Monogame framework input gamepad is a platform agnostic implementation, but we need to go to platform specifics, which should be somewhere like platform input gamepad. UWP is a UWP version, but we don't want that. We want iOS implementation. Okay, here we have. Actually, Monogame doesn't check for the event of gamepad being added. They just check all the connected controllers each time the game loop is running. So we'll have to find those events ourselves. But this is good because we can use this to at least enumerate those controllers. And that's gonna be matching the gamepad's API here in UWP. So let's see. For example, this. Connecting the middle of the game. That's interesting. So we want to respond to controller being connected and disconnected during gameplay, and that's exactly what we need here. And it seems they are using NS Notification Center, which has the GC controller did connect and did disconnect notification. So that's good, because this is exactly what we need to get those notifications working. Okay. This is still building. The first build is always a little bit long. Oh, it's not configured to run, of course. We have to set this to deploy. Now let's see. Not sure why the chat window is updating only with the events from Pretzel player, but not from the actual chat. Anyway. Okay, still building. I'll in the meantime check the connection to here, so I'll try to connect so you can see the screen, because we need the actual device, not the simulator, as we will need to see the gamepads connected. And that's not possible with a simulator. The connection was working before. Now it's not connecting anymore, which is unfortunate. Unable to connect. Okay. Maybe I'll have to restart this. Oh, good. Here we go. So here's the samples application running, and we should have gamepad enumeration test. And now it should just basically do nothing. Yeah, basically crash here with not implement exception, which is exactly what we need to start. So let's create first gamepad iOS. I can see I have wrong file name here. Good. Right, here we go. For here we have to uncomment iOS, as this implementation will be shared, and we will have to go to gamepad, the generated gamepad class, which is here, to say that this is now implemented. We will implement gamepads and also the GamepadAdded and GamepadRemoved event. Right. So now we have to implement this get gamepads internal method. I will probably copy the implementation I already have in Android to get started. So in Android we have a private dictionary which is caching those gamepads, so we don't initialize the same class twice, because the UWP implementation depends on actual instances being the same. So if you want to check if your gamepad is still connected, you will basically check if gamepads contains your instance. But otherwise you have basically no idea, no way to check if it's connected still. So we have to cache those instances and keep them alive. And for that I have created this dictionary, which will make sure that we can map those native instances from the system to existing gamepads. Okay, so this will be the implementation, and for now we will just keep it simple, and we will return. We'll check what's the capabilities of GC controller. As game controller namespace, and I will just, to make sure it's only for iOS, I will check if iOS and if macOS. Actually, this class, this file name can be iOS, macOS. As it's gonna work for iOS and macOS as well. GC controller has probably the did connect notification and did disconnect notification, which we will use, and also the controllers array, or yeah, it's an array. So let's check what's the capabilities of a controller. Gamepad contains. What is the difference between GC gamepad and GC controller? It's a standard set of gamepad controls. Oh, it's essentially the whole thing seems to be deprecated. It's deprecated everywhere, and the whole class is deprecated, so probably just the GC controller is used. Okay, and here we have it's a nice API for discovering wireless controllers for Bluetooth. But as UWP doesn't have this here, we're not gonna be implementing this now. So here we have player index. That's interesting. That's gonna be possibly a way to differentiate between different connected gamepads. Those are the notifications. But is there something like a unique identifier of the gamepad? GC control player index, that's coming from iOS, I presume. Yeah, so it supports basically 4 controllers connected at the same time, or should. Whenever your game is actually using a particular game controller, you must set the index to a proper player index. So it means that once this is set, it should stay the same. You're not required to provide a unique player index for each active game controller. Interesting. So multiple different controllers can use the same player index. Yeah, but when they are on the same team. And when control is no longer used, then it should have the index unset. Right. So this is interesting. This is something which is not in UWP or Android, so we'll probably have to implement this also to make sure it actually responds properly, the game controller responds properly to input. But for now we will have to probably make mapping from the native GC gamepad to our UWP implementation. So gamepad, and this dictionary will then map to our native to our UWP instance. So for we have no IDs, but we have connected GC controllers. This is actually this code is disconnecting those gamepads which are no longer connected from the native side. So we will just remove those from our gamepad cache. Not IDs, but and connected IDs are these. So we remove those which are no longer connected and remove those keys or entries from the gamepad cache. What is this? It's saying that I don't have Uno extensions. No, that's unlikely. Oh, that's interesting. These are GC gamepad. Alright, so I've used a different type here. GC controller, that's the right one. And we remove keys, and removal of keys is actually implemented as an extension. And now we go here. For all newly connected, we will actually generate a UWP based class for the controllers. So let's make a constructor which will be private. This can be read-only. Let's simplify this to controller. And then we have for connected game controllers, we'll check if we'll get or create the gamepad. That's implementation which I have also here. So I will steal it from here a little bit. So for GC controller, this checks if the control exists in the cache, and if it does not, if it does, we return true, and if it does not, then we create a new instance of the gamepad. And we don't need this, as the implementation will be much simpler here. Just return true. Yeah, this false was there only for Android because in those cases it could have been a non-gamepad device, but we can probably keep it simple here and just put it here and remove this altogether. So, because we know the gamepad is new or existing, so we have to check if it's there. So for controller, we get the gamepad, and if it's not there, we create it. And then we, yeah, that's good. So if it's not yet in the cache, we add it to the cache. Right. Yes, for the keys controller. But we need some way to order those gamepads. So I will have to create a private and gamepad ID, static. And this static ID will ensure that we always have a unique ID for each controller. Oh, some noises. Some better name than this. I need some this, and then I will let's make this a little bit better. I need to make sure that I don't accidentally create two same IDs from two different threads. So probably what I will need is to lock this method against the gamepad cache, so that I know that it's only updated from one thread at the same time. Then I will be able to order by ID. And I will be able to set the ID in the constructor, and then I will update it like this, so it will be ready for the next iteration, for the next instance. Okay, and this is read-only, this is good, and the ordering is also fine. So now we should be able to get the list of gamepads and see that the number increases when I connect a new gamepad. So let's see. What failed here? Remote control failed. We haven't modified there anything. Let's retry this. Again, the same thing. Windows UI color could not be found. That's weird. Seems like there is some transient build issue. Let's restart Visual Studio just to make sure we have this fixed. So can discard this, and let's see. Okay. Let's hope it's fixed the issue. Apart from that, I don't see any problematic change here, so it should be it. Now it seems build is running, but again some weird issues here. Why though? Why does it keep doing this? Oh, right, we have this error here. So start GamepadAdded and GamepadRemoved. I haven't seen this error here. Oh, it's in the end, so you have to put some basic empty implementations there, just to make sure it doesn't crash during compilation. Here. and it's a static method, of course. So static. Right, now we should be good. All right, let's build. So those errors are gone now, and it's successfully building. So we'll see if it's gonna continue in this way. Yes, seems good. So now we will have the remaining stuff. That's gonna be the events, and for the events we will use those GC controllers did connect and did disconnect notifications, but it doesn't seem like the notification is giving us a way to check which of those controllers is connected and disconnected, which is unfortunate. Let's see. The notification is here. Yeah, so the notification object is the GC controller that represents a connected device, and on the other side it's the same thing again. So we will be able to check which is the disconnected and connected device, which is great, as I think the event in UWP has the gamepad as event arcs of the event. Not sure why this keeps disconnecting from the phone. Come on. This is running now. But I don't see a way to show the phone screen now. Let's see if this helps. So it says no device. It's great. Try killing this and restarting again. Oh, now it recognized, and screen mirroring. Oh, we on. Good. So let's go back. And we should now see something new here. So if we refresh, we get zero gamepads, and when I connect one, okay. Oh, we have one, so that's great. I'll try to connect one more. I had issues with connecting this device, so we'll see if it's better now. It doesn't seem this gamepad is connecting. It's just fine, I guess. We don't need two at the same time now, but it should be working fine. So let's now go back and implement those events as well. So just away, and let's go to GamepadAdded. Here we have to start the notification for newly added gamepads, and we can do that by using NS Notification Center. Subscribe. No, it's your default center. Add observer, and the name of the event is from the gamepad class. Did connect notification, and we will handle this in on did connect. And an NS notification should actually be wrapper for the GC controller. Is it this? The payload, yes. So let's try GC controller. Oh, I see the problem now. We need to create controller here as well, so I will need to add a lock here, and I will basically need to do exactly this operation here to make sure that the controller is cached and we have an instance that we can use for this. Gamepad. Yeah, and we will do so gamepad here. And we will then notify the subscribers, which is going to be in a GamepadAdded, invoke the center is null because this is a static class, a static method, and did disconnect will be very similar. I can just reuse this code here. Removed. Right. And we'll hook up these events. So for start gamepad removed, we'll do this disconnect notification, and then we do remove observer from disconnect, which is gonna be. Oh, we need an observer instance, which is something we get here. So game so like this, we'll store it and then use it to remove it. Right. And then we nullify this, and the same thing goes here. Observer, here, did disconnect. And this field doesn't exist, and we should be good. Right. Okay. So with this, we should now have a functional implementation of GamepadAdded and GamepadRemoved. So let's see if it works. This is good. Still sharing, and I will launch this. It seems we will have time to look at the WebAssembly implementation as well. So let's see. WebAssembly, no, JavaScript Gamepad API. So there is a new API for JavaScript which handles gamepads, and it actually has very similar API here on gamepad connected, on gamepad disconnected, and to get gamepads. So using those, we should be able to see which gamepads are currently connected. The support is quite good. It's not yet generally supported, and it's still a draft API, but for our purposes, as an initial implementation, it should be good, and better than nothing, definitely. The builds are taking exceedingly long time. Are we there yet? So copying to the device. So it's gonna be any time now. Right. So now the gamepad I have is connected. So if we do a sudden disconnection, we will observe those events. And let's disconnect it. Now disconnected. Yeah, so we get the notification and the gamepad count dropped to 0. And if we connect it back, should now get gamepad added event. It's the same thing, and we have the gamepad count running, and it actually works. So that's good. So that should be the gamepad added and gamepad removed event from iOS and macOS, as this is a shared implementation for macOS as well. I am not sure if I can test it quickly. I will push it into the branch and then try to build it on Mac as well, so you can see if it's actually working there. So these are the changes. Good. Try to share the screen of the Mac as well. What's the name of the app? Oh, Tight VNC Viewer. Right. See if it connects. Alright, good. It should work. So push this and start to build it, start building it on Mac, and then we will check how it works. Okay. Just so you can see what I'm doing there. And in the meantime, here I will close this, switch to WebAssembly, and we'll repeat the same thing again there. WebAssembly. Right. So let it build on Mac. We'll get back to it afterwards. So, with this in mind, oh, I forgot something very important there. Because that implementation I did was for macOS and iOS, but I didn't remove those platform-specific flags from there. So, it actually thinks the Mac version is still not implemented. Stop the build. Come on. So here in Gamepad generated, Gamepad, we should have macOS, and let's make this one false, and this one false, and this one, and this one. Good. And back in our Uno implementation here, we need to do the same thing here and add macOS as the target. Now that should be enough. This is already iOS macOS implementation, that's fine, and I will have to push these changes as well. Building, and I will push these two changes. So let it build. Let's go back to our code. I'll pull the implementation. Right, so what the WebAssembly version will need is a TypeScript file here. Gaming input gamepad ts. And also represent the JavaScript counterpart of our namespace. Windows device, no, gaming input, and the class will be how it's done here. I always forget. So it's export class here. Gamepad. I will need several methods. One will be to retrieve gamepads which are currently connected. One will be to start the GamepadAdded event, one to stop it, one to start GamepadRemoved, and one to stop that as well. So let's see. Do we need something special here? Ah, let's do this. And what's the API for this? So this is stored in Navigator. Get gamepads. And this returns an array of gamepads. And there is an identifier for gamepad. All right. For now, we will just need a list of identifiers. I need to return string here because to interrupt with C# requires serialization string. And now a separator. So this will just return the connected gamepad IDs. And the method will start gamepad connected. And this will be subscriber to the event. Another one will be and gamepad connected. Do unsubscribe. And the same thing for So when I see the build on Mac didn't work out well because I have an older version there, so it will not launch now. I can repaste that. I'll fetch master and then merge it. Mm-hmm. Let's see if it helps. Now let's go back to WebAssembly. And now we have navigator, not this one, it's on gamepad connected its own window. That's interesting. So window, right, we have to add event listener. Gamepad connected, and there will be a private static on gamepad connected and a private static on gamepad disconnected. Okay, the event is actually called this, which is fine. Let's see. Connected. Yeah, and it's static, so I will just use this. Good. And for the end, I will remove event listener. And the same thing here. Just remove those. Disconnected. Right. And now I will need a way to get back into C# from JavaScript, and for that we have these dispatch reading our dispatch methods. So I will add one here. And we'll call it dispatch gamepad connected. Disconnected. And the argument will be ID. And these both have to be initialized, and the initialization is very wordy. So let's do it here. Dispatch connected. So it's Windows gaming input gamepad dispatch gamepad connected, and the same thing here, disconnected. And we will first check if this dispatch gamepad connected is actually not yet set, so we don't repeat it necessarily. Like this. And here we go, the same thing. Connected, gamepad connected, connected, disconnected. Should be good. All right. So that's the JavaScript part of things. And we will now need to do the C#. So in Uno, we have gaming input gamepad. Check the state of this. How it's building. So we add WASM. And we go to gamepad generated class to remove those WASM flags. There's one more. Yeah, good. That should be all. And we add gamepad WASM for platform specific implementation. All right. PowerShell. And what we need there, so a lot of this boilerplate will be the same. I will just copy these to WebAssembly now, and let's do some specifics here. So what we need is a private const string JS type. There's a JS type which will be the counterpart of our native C# type here. And the ID of gamepads is a string. These we will not need anymore. We have an ID supplied by the system, and so it's gonna be a parameter here. This goes away as well. Now in here we'll need to start gamepad connected. I named it differently in the TypeScript file, so I will replace this connected. Okay. These should be named GamepadAdded. Actually, not really. We can keep it like this. It's mentioning the TypeScript part of things. Even though, yeah, let's do edit and edit. These will be removed, so that only the implementation itself contains the platform specific part. So it's gonna be just type dot start GamepadAdded. We'll use WebAssembly runtime invoke JS method to start this. So this will be the counterpart, which will be end GamepadAdded. And here we have GamepadRemoved. Right, so those are the events, and for get gamepads implementation we'll need to call, yeah, we also need the dispatch methods. And this actually requires some special attribute there. Let's see. In geolocator WASM we have preserve, of course. Preserve. And removed. Dispatch GamepadAdded. As an argument, we have the ID of the gamepad, and in preserve so this will be the notifications we get from JavaScript when a new device is connected. We'll just lock against the gamepad cache and verify if it's a new device we don't know yet. And in such case we create it. And the same thing here. And if it's new, then after that we will invoke the native event, which will be now gamepad. Of course we need gamepad here. GamepadRemoved, GamepadAdded, and now we just modify this get gamepad's internal method. For that we will need a command, and that will be just type dot, as the name correct, get connected to gamepad IDs. And the result will be the IDs, which will be serialized as a string, and we will have to split it into parts. So use this as an ID separator, and we will do serialized ID split against this, and we remove empty entries, and it's gonna be a char just to keep it simple. Okay. Alright, we need as an array of this. And we have an array of IDs, and then from those we generate our instances. So we don't need any of this. I actually need this. We already have the IDs here. So except like this. And we remove disconnected devices, which is correct. And then for the connected gamepad IDs, we add those to cache, and we return them sorted by ID, which is fine. Okay, that seems good. Just rename this to ID, and that should be enough. Okay, let's. One more thing we have to do here is to update the linker configuration in Uno UI so that the method we have is accessible from TypeScript, from JavaScript code. And that's gonna have to be done here. So we have to type full name. Dispatch. And removed. Just to check if the name is correct, dispatch GamepadAdded and dispatch GamepadRemoved. That's good. Okay, I'll probably launch this now. And in the meantime, we will go back to Mac, and we will check if our implementation of Gamepad is working there. So let's see. Gamepad enumeration test. Oh, what do we have here? There's actually a error which we don't need to care about. It's just wrong deserialization of the file, but it's not connected to our implementation. So let's see. The gamepad count is currently 0, and I will launch this and connect it like this. Come on. I have to add it here. It's not this one. Oh, here we go. So let's connect this controller. Now it's in, and we should get gamepad count 1. And when I subscribe to these, we should get disconnected notification when it's off. Yep, and when we reconnect it, it's added now. So good. This is perfect. Let's see if this one works as well, but I don't think so. Yeah, so the second one, hell, good. So now we have 2 gamepads connected, and we should be able to do things like remove the second one and see the number drop. Yeah, perfect. So even with 2 game controllers, we are in a working state here. Right, so that's for Mac. And this is now finishing its build. Perfect. Okay, I connected one of my gamepads to the PC. I'll add this to see if there are any errors for when I launch the page. And let's try it. Okay, so refresh gamepad count is now 1. So 1 gamepad is connected. I will try to connect more of them. Let's see here. And here, I'll remove this. It's a different one. And oh, yeah, good. Okay. Cannot read property ID of null. That's not good. This one, and this one as well. Now I have 3 gamepads connected, but I get an error here. Yeah, so there's something wrong in this part of code. Get connected gamepad IDs. Let's put a breakpoint there to see what's happening. Gamepad. Oh, okay, that's sudden. So you probably have to check if the gamepad in the array is actually not null, as it seems that when the gamepad is disconnected, it becomes null in the array, but it still remains there. What is this? Access violation. Access violation. But why? Let's try to fix this. Not very useful. So let's see, gamepad GS, this class. So here we crash on this part, so we will have to add a check if gamepads E is, if it exists, so we don't add it if it's not available. But it's still surprising that it crashed with the weird exception there. And I'm even not sure if it's updated the sources now. So this was very quick. Let's see. No, it's the same thing. Come on, stop. Oh, we got a freeze there. Ah, that's unfortunate. Oh, we're back. Good. So we have to manually build this WebAssembly project so that the JavaScript file is rebuilt. But no, it didn't work. Let's do it like this. Maybe it's just a problem with developer version of Microsoft Edge. Maybe. Okay, so it's finished now, and this should now contain. No, not this, but this. Oh, it seems good. That seems good. So it's now checking for the existence of the gamepad. Let's see if it helped. And maybe I will just open it in a different browser to make sure that we don't have any dev version specific issues. Oh, I don't have installed stable version, so let's do Chrome. Got a failure here. Let's see if it rebuilds. UI toolkit, we didn't touch the UI toolkit, it shouldn't be giving us errors. Second time is the charm. So let's launch. Okay. Anytime now. Here we go. There we go. Let's put it here. Okay, let's see. I have 3 gamepads now connected. Gamepad. it's again having this status access violation problem. Let's see when it fails, in fact. I am interested to see that. But it was the Edge browser, maybe this will be better. Developer versions are always buggy. Let's see, I'll put it here. So we get here, we have gamepad, and it is 4 items. Interesting. And what happens here? Interesting, so it doesn't get passed. Suppose I do gamepads 1, 2, alright. Gamepad list. Oh, it's not indexed by indexes, but by... Yeah, we need iterator. We need to use iterator in here, so maybe there is a sample. That's very interesting. Gamepad list. This is null. No, there are no gamepads in flags. Okay, so all those items are null. That is weird. this. Now we have something interesting. One. Okay, so I have to connect those gamepads after the page is loaded, otherwise it returns nulls. That's a weird behavior, but it's a beta API, so maybe it's just how it works now. Okay, it doesn't recognize those which are connected wirelessly either. When I disconnect this one, it doesn't drop the value. It really seems like the implementation of gamepads is really not stable now. Disconnecting one during. This doesn't do anything as well. We have some errors. No. That's weird. Oh, actually, I'm not calling these methods here, which might be one of the issues. But still, I don't get the notification that gamepad was added. Right. I see that one is connected. 1, 2, 3. This is working. Why is it not doing the same here? Let's see the sources. Let's see what happens here.
Listen.
And the problem might be that I have this ID is actually not unique here. All of these have the same, all of them have the same ID. Maybe that's the case. That's the problem I have here. So let's try it. Check the event names here. So it's gamepad connected, gamepad disconnected. Okay, I'm using on gamepad connected and on gamepad disconnected, which is wrong, of course.
Listen.
Right. And now we just have to invoke these methods. So instead of this string ID, I will use index, which seems to be unique. And that should solve our problems. And we will dispatch. We need the, so E is the gamepad event. Gamepad is let's see. And this will be e dot gamepad index. What's the type of those? Interface. Interface. So the event definition. Gamepad connected. Oh, I know. Window dot I'll just keep it as NA and not care about this for now. It's not ideal because it's not strongly typed, but it at least works. And now the remaining thing we have is to make sure that this is unique. Let's see if it works now. And of course we need to rebuild this WebAssembly project. I need to rebuild it without rebuilding the whole thing. Whatever. Let's wait for it. But this page was quite interesting, the Gamepad API tester HTML. It's quite useful. And maybe we can even see the type of the event there. Gamepad list. Gamepad event init. So this is the actual type there. Good. Yeah, right. Actually doesn't know about this specific type of event yet in the definition. Let's keep it simple then. Good. Now we should be able to run it. But the goal we will have is to get to this state where we can actually show a similar UI with the axis and the button states, but mapped to the UWP UNO platform API. But it seems like this is working pretty well. It actually captures all the forces. And it seems it initializes the controllers once the first button is actually pushed. So when I refresh, there is no gamepad until I click something. So that might explain why we got the nulls there. Gamepad narration. Yeah, because we have now right. Let's do it here. Good, now we have the new implementation using index, which should be unique. Good. So now we should get 0, but when I touch anything, we should now get all 3 gamepads. Good, finally. And now let's observe these events, and I'll put a breakpoint here to these 2, no, not to these 2, but to these 2. And let's see what happens if I disconnect one of those controllers. Yes, we get notification, and when we finish this, and it's not a function. Dispatch GamepadRemoved is not a function, isn't it? We didn't initialize it, or there's some other problem. Windows Gaming Input Gamepad Dispatch GamepadRemoved. And what does the edit one do? It's undefined. Still undefined. So it doesn't find my method here. Windows Gaming Input Gamepad. So this is fine. I know why. In the Gamepad WASM CS, to make it available from JavaScript, it has to return an int for specific reasons. So I have to add this to the end, and the same thing here. So now it should be available and discoverable. Otherwise, it seems okay. That should be the last thing missing. Let's hope that's the case. Okay. Of course we have to go here. So we have 3 gamepads observing events, and now let's see and hope it works. One disconnected. This should be now undefined, but after this check it should be defined. And it's not. Come on. What is your problem? In the other direction. Still undefined. You must have some weird issue here. So what did I miss? In here we have linked definition, which is correctly defined. Gaming input gamepad. Method name is also correct. It's the same thing. Also the same thing. Gaming input gamepad. This is completely fine. And in this class we have it seems okay as well. Let's compare it with, for example, this one. So, string. Module. Let's do this again. Oh gosh, it has to be not because we skipped this if. So if it was defined, it never was defined, so it just went here and crashed. Oh my, that was a. Yes, this is Uno platform. Yes. Have you used Uno platform before? Uno is this. It's a cross-platform application development framework, which allows you to build WebAssembly, iOS, Android, and Windows, and macOS applications with just a single code base. in C# and XAML. So it's a pretty cool thing, and especially the WebAssembly part is now very much pushed, because it's a unique way for C# developers to bring apps to WebAssembly to the web. So yeah, for WebAssembly it's based on Mono, and on iOS and Android it's based on native Xamarin bindings. So there is no Xamarin Forms. It's like the same level as Xamarin Forms. And on Windows it just runs against UWP. And of course there is macOS, which also runs against Xamarin Mac. But it's pretty nice, and it's growing every day. A lot of contributions from the community, and as well the team behind Uno platform is very keen on developing this, because they also use it for their company applications or for the clients. So it's growing fast, and hopefully it will be one of the nicest platforms, as it has support for web as well. Yeah, so we have 3. Let's see. Remove. Oh, of course I didn't subscribe to this. But it's now set properly. And when I reconnect, yes, I get GamepadAdded, and then I should get GamepadRemoved event. Yes. Okay. So it now finally works as we expect it to. Right. So that will probably be everything for today. Yes. It's getting quite late here. So I'll just push those changes. So all right. Merge conflict. Yeah, we just take the latest one.
People that are different have a shot at being original. You know, they got motivation too. You know,
Good.
they got motivation.
All right. So that's it for today. I thank you all for joining, and we'll continue implementing Gamepad for Uno platform next time, probably next week or week after that. And we will finally start implementing those input events like button presses and trigger movements and thumbsticks movements. So this will be much more interesting, and it's gonna be again cross-platform across Windows, iOS, Android, macOS, and WebAssembly. So a lot of things to do. Right. Thank you for joining, and see you next time.